It's Lovely J Podcast here, Miss Coco Bowden, and I'm going to be talking to you about the history of God's anointed messengers. This is my take on things, and I'm just going to do a little bit at a time as I can let it out and as I can remember. Was doing a Facebook post tonight, and it really opened me up and had me thinking of some of the spiritual abuse and some of the good times too that we went through on the road as gospel singers. And when I say gospel singers, I'm speaking on me and my sisters. We had a family group by the name of God's Anointed Messengers, and we sung so many different places, so many different churches, and it just, some of the memories are good and some are horrible, because as we all know, anytime you're doing something for God or you're doing something good, you're not going to be welcome in your own community. And that's, that has went on for generations, even in the Bible day when Jesus wasn't welcome in his own community. So they said, shake the dust off. But we started out when we were really young singing. Let me share this out. I'm sorry, y'all. We started out really young, and we didn't know the business. We didn't know the ministry like that. We really didn't know a lot about singing gospel music. We just knew that we liked to sing. We knew that we enjoyed singing, and that was, anything we did, if it was school, anything, we were singing. We were just known for singing. And I'm trying to find some of the songs that we may have sung here on YouTube. We do have some songs on YouTube. We only made one song together, and it got shopped out, but I don't know what happened with that CD. It was a remake of Hold My Mule, and that was in, I want to say, the late 90s. We did that. We cut that song in Troy, North Carolina, with Richard Pratt, who is what's the name of that group he sings with? Well, he's no longer with us, but he used to sing with a famous group. Let me see if I can find it. Y'all know we use our social media for everything. Ooh, let's see. What is the name of that group he sung with? All I can think of is the Blue something. Excuse me, y'all. Blue Magic. That's who we sung with. The old group, Blue Magic. And that was an American R&B music group. And it was one of the most popular groups in Philadelphia. And so he had an ear for music and talent, and he scouted my sister out. He didn't come for he really didn't come for the rest of us, but my sister was like, if they can't sing the background, then I'm not going to sing. And I'll get into more things about that as we go further on in. But God's Anointed Messengers was not always God's Anointed Messengers. We started out, we were just making, I don't know. We were imitating people. We go to church and we see how certain people sang, and we'd be like, I bet I could sing like that person. And so that's what we would do. We would come home and pretend like we had that person's voice, and we would add our own touch to their song, and it would just fit. Our voices together would just fill the whole house up as if a choir was there. And when we started out singing, first started out, it was my biological mom and biological dad. They were the ones who originally saw that we had the gift of music. They was the ones that discovered that we could sing. And we ended up entertaining their guests because they liked to party back then. And so when they would have the guests come in, we would start singing, and that entertained people. People would be drinking and enjoying the singing. That's how it was. And every now and then somebody would request a gospel song, because we were singing R&B too back then. Somebody would request a gospel song, and we sing them a gospel song, and then in the midst of their drinking, they start crying, and I don't know. It would touch them. But we was too young to understand what that meant to them. We didn't really know until we got older. We didn't know what the spirit was, any of that. We just knew we liked to sing, and it was people that liked to hear us sing. So for a long time, we were their entertainment. And then I don't know where my biological mom, Gloria, got the idea from, but she was like, we need to get y'all to the radio station. Y'all gonna practice. We didn't even know nothing about a radio station or anything. How that happened, she just threw it on us, and we were scared, because I'm going to tell you, I was 8 years old, and I was the lead singer back then. When we first started out, I was the lead singer, and the only song I really knew was Jesus by Shirley Caesar, so we sung that, and she had us practicing that song all night. All day. And then you know how it is, sometimes when you don't get the words right, you get in trouble, or the song right. So I stayed getting in trouble because I played a lot, and on top of that, singing, to me, I wasn't the best vocally. I'm gonna say that up front. I wasn't the best. Just at the time, I was the one that people was paying attention to, because they thought it was cute that this little child was singing. And that's why she let me go ahead and sing, so that I would draw the attention in. What else? So after we practiced that song all night, I'm gonna tell you too, we was not God's anointed messengers. Our first name was the Midnight Shiners. That was our first name. And I'm going to tell you how we got that name. My dad, Deacon Marshall Bowden, when my biological mom, would come in all time of night from partying or whatever, he would call her Midnight Rambler. And he did us like that too as we got older. He'd be like, where you Midnight Ramblers been off to? And that's how at that time we got the name Midnight Shiners, because we couldn't sing till she came in, which was usually after midnight. And we would sometimes be sitting up waiting on her to come in, and we would look up the dirt road to see if the light would be on, so we could go sing with her. Well, she gave us that name, the Midnight Shiners, and we ended up wearing black everywhere we went, seemed like. And she had us going to all these churches, and we ended up getting into Christmas programs, any type of program that was going on around church, and they needed some singers. Our biological mom, Gloria, would put us in that. Now, at the time, the Midnight Shiners consisted of 4 of us children, and that was my older brother, Joe. Okay, wait a minute. Let me turn this off. It consisted of my older brother, Joe, and I just thought about something. We wrote a song, too, together, called He'll Be There. We remade the Jackson song, and we were going out singing that song everywhere. It was my older brother Joe, my older sister Christina, and my older sister Cammie, and I was the baby of the group. I stayed the baby of the group until Kaola came along, but I stayed the baby. And we wrote that song, He'll Be There. We wrote that song in probably 1 hour before we had to it was like 1 hour before we had to go and sing. And that night when we first sung that song would be Greens Grove Choir. No, it was a revival, I think, going on. At their revival that night, we sung He'll Be There. Let me see if I remember a little bit of it. Y'all gotta excuse me because I feel a little nasally, but the song would go, you know the song, I'll be there. Well, that wasn't what we sung. We changed it to, He'll be there. Just open your eyes. Just call His name and He'll be there. And so my brother would have this little part that says, we'd be like, Jesus, He'll be there to comfort you when you're not so sure. And some other words. I don't remember all the words. This was in the early 80s. So I don't remember all the words that we wrote to that song. But it was a pretty song. And that's what got us going and singing. We sung that on the radio down in Rockingham. It was an AM station where we first started singing. And then we would go around to family reunions singing. Anywhere we went, we was getting asked to sing. We didn't know why. We just went along with it. We were happy to be singing. Singing then, it wasn't, the only part about singing then that we probably didn't like was when we got in trouble when we didn't sing some songs right. Because I was a clown, I ain't gonna lie. Like, I get to hear somebody, I can mark and imitate anybody I want. And it was this one song that I used to do, I was around, I want to say, I was 8 years old whenever we did the first radio station, which was in Rockingham. And so I had to be about 10 years old, 5th grade, when I was singing the song Candy. And I was singing this for her friends, you know, just entertaining her friends and, you know, people around the house. And I could just do my voice any kind of way. And I'd be like, Candy! Boom. Dun, dun, dun. You are my sweet candy. You know, I like the jazz sound and all that. And I was bad about doing that. So when we were practicing to sing our gospel songs, I would burst out. I would burst out singing, you know, in that deep voice. And I like singing in the deep voice. I like growling and things, but biological mama Gloria won't having that. She was like, no, you can't be doing that when we go off to sing. You got to do right now. If you ain't gonna do right, we ain't going. You know, that's how she was, because she would go off if we did not sing them songs right. And that's how we got started as the Midnight Shiners. Now, the Midnight Shiners, we lasted up until our biological mother, because at the time she was the one driving us everywhere and making sure we were getting to these bookings that she was doing. She was doing these bookings. Now, we didn't know, her and my biological dad, we really didn't know anything about the music industry, the gospel industry. We didn't know anything about ministering. We just knew we had these gifts that we were using. And we did. We used them. So we're moving forward. And as we get older, we're going to church now, and one night there's a revival, and we decide we all gonna get saved. And so all of us, we got together on that bench, and it was 4 of us, the same 4 little midnight shiners. Because, see, we had to stop singing because our biological mother, Gloria, she went to prison. And when she went to prison, some kind of way, that I don't want to say it took away from us, and I don't want it to look like it was so much of a game that, it happened. It happened. She went to prison, and we now was not getting booked because we didn't know what to do. And so we left that alone, and we just started doing regular church again. But then we got where we was enjoying being on the Christmas programs, and anytime they had a building fund program, we would sing on it. And then we had neighboring churches that were like Miss Cammie, who was our grandma, Miss Cammie and Marshall. They would call them, and they got where they were saying, "Can your girls come and sing for us?" And so we started out singing at a lot of revivals. We didn't always sing at anniversaries, but it was a lot of revivals. Now, one thing about our biological mom, Gloria, what she taught us was how to keep going, because what hurt us really bad too during that time before she went to prison was she would go to the choir anniversaries to sing, and we would see her come in, and we weren't singing then. We wouldn't sing then. She'd come in, she'd be just about late, and she always come in at the end, and I wondered why she always come in at the end. But then as I got older, I learned why she always came in at the end, because let's just say she wasn't popular, so she wasn't well received by people when she would come sing. And even if she would had signed up to be first, they still would have put her last. Let's just say it like that. But we would see her come in and sing, and she would sing her song. And that one song we used to love to hear sing, "If the Lord..." That's about the only part I remember of it. What is it? If the Lord... I don't know. I don't know what the rest of that song was. But she had a strong, powerful voice. Now, one thing about her, back then, she had a strong, powerful voice. She would sing, and it would just fill the church up by herself. She didn't need no background. She knew how she wanted to sing her song, and that's the way she sung it. She had a voice. I mean, she still has a voice. She had a good voice back then, but it was her character that people didn't like. They didn't like her character because she was in and out of prison and getting in trouble, and she wasn't coming to church on a regular, but she would show up for anniversaries or at any opportunity to sing. She would show up. Excuse me, y'all. But that's how we started singing. We would watch her, and we would watch how people responded to her singing too. And most of the time, people would like shun their heads at her, or they would start walking out while she's singing. They really did not care for her. And growing up, it still had an effect on us girls. It made us insecure. Our self-esteem was low because of how we saw them treat her in the church. We saw how they looked down upon her because she wasn't dressed like them. When she come in the church, she'd be dressed in my daddy black church shirt, my biological daddy, in his black church shirt, bushy hair, and it's kind of bright red too, because she like bright colors, dark lipstick, black men's pants, and flip-flops. That's how she would come into church. And to her, she was comfortable in what she had on. But to others, they didn't like to see it. They didn't welcome her like that. And it got to a point, too, sometimes where it would almost be fights in the church because they did not welcome her, and she didn't hold her peace. She wasn't weak. That's what I'm saying. She wasn't a weak woman. And if you say something to her out of the way, she would speak up for herself. And she still does that to this day. And we didn't understand what she was saying back then. We'd be like, you embarrassing us. You embarrassing us. Not knowing that we were going to have to go through the same trials and tribulations that she had to go through. Yeah, we were going to have to go through the same things that she went through. We didn't realize it at that time. But it's a good thing that we saw how she handled herself, because it helped us to know how to handle people who were being offensive and disrespectful to us. So 83 is how we got started. And some of the songs we started on, I'm just going to go on into that. Some of the songs and influences we had back then was Shirley Caesar was my number one go-to song, because Daddy was like, yeah, he played it all the time, so I fell in love with her. And Mahalia Jackson was mine. Remember, I told you I could do those voices. I would get mad sometime at home. I was a little girl with issues. And so I get to the corner and I say, sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. You know, I would do it like in a big adult voice like that. Now, y'all know, obviously, I'm older now. But I would do it in an adult voice, and I just fell in love with those gospel singers. Mighty Clouds of Joy was songs that we sung. The Williams Brothers. We love the Williams Brothers. I'm just nobody. We love that song. James Cleveland. Some of the first songs we sung was God Has Smiled on Me. Now, those songs came later, because later when we was around, I was at 12 years old when I first got baptized, and that's when we was able to join the church choir. At this time, the church choir was called the Sunshine Band, and it was led by, what's her name? I don't remember her name. Yes, I do. Miss Cagle. Miss Jelly Cagle. She was over the children's choir, because we weren't quite old enough to be on the young adult choir or the gospel choir, which was about like for the seniors. Our church had two choirs, the young adult and the gospel singers. Well, it became three when they made the children's choir. And we got on there as the Sunshine Band, and we began to sing songs like, it's been so long, y'all. I can't remember all the names of the songs because it's been so long. But Miss Cake would say, let me get a beat. What you gonna do when this world's on fire? Where you gonna run to? Where you gonna hide? I say, what you gonna do when this world's on fire? Where you gonna run to? Where you gonna hide? I ain't gonna run. I'ma stay right here. I'ma stay right here and do my master's will, because I've been dipped in the water. You know, good songs like that. Good feel-good songs. I Should Wear a Crown. Another good song that we were singing good back then. Tim Rogers made the remix of He's My Rock. Yeah, I love to praise him. I love to praise his name. I love to praise him. And when we got on the choir, now this is where we started learning that our voices had to be arranged. We had to be in certain order in order for our voices to blend right. So Miss Cagle, I give it to her. She taught us about the blending of the voices and how to sing to music. Because all this time we were going around singing without music. We didn't have a band or anything. And because my mama, biological mama Gloria, because she was, like I said, people shunned her. They didn't want to do anything for her. Because when we would go sing, if she would be with us, sometimes the musicians would get up and walk out. They wouldn't play for us. Nope. They wouldn't play for us. That was back in the 80s. And so she taught us how to sing with music because we wasn't used to singing, us singing. We were used to making our own music through harmony. Now, one thing about me, I always had an ear and I could, tell when we were singing good or when we were singing off key or if somebody needed to go up, somebody needed to go down. I was good at arranging the vocals, but Miss Cagle, called her Jelly Bean, she taught us how to do that really good once we got under her watch and we started learning how to dress as a group, how to minister as a group of young kids. She taught us how to do young women things, how to take care of our hair, how to, just how to basically be better. To this day, I miss her. And I miss her daughter and her son because her daughter was on the choir. A lot of the other kids that we went to school with, they was on the choir. We were the Sunshine Band of Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church in Candor, North Carolina. At that time, we was underneath Reverend Isaac, was our pastor's name. And we had some of the best revivals. So when the Sunshine Band had to sing, we got up there and we threw down. And she would take extra time with us. Like when it was time for choir rehearsal to be over, she sometimes would stay later with us just teaching us how to sing our parts. Because she saw something in us that we couldn't see. Our biological mom, Gloria, saw something in us. And our biological dad saw something in us that we couldn't see. Everybody around us could see this anointing on us to sing and to heal people through singing, to give people peace through singing. But we couldn't see it ourselves during those times. We were young and didn't quite understand what we had, the gift we had, but we were using the gifts. We just didn't understand it. So the Sunshine Band, it didn't really last too long. We probably went for almost 2 years in the Sunshine Band, and it got where the parents stopped bringing the kids out to practice because when it's new, everybody wants to be in it. But then back in those days, we didn't have good babysitters and things, and the parents had to work, and we were the babysitters. If you had smaller siblings, you were the babysitter. And you had to stay home and take care of those little kids while your parents worked. So we had to stop going. Between mama and daddy working, we couldn't keep up with the practices. But we didn't stop singing. Y'all got to excuse my nose. Ooh. We didn't stop singing because the Sunshine Band stopped, because those women that was in the church back in those days, Miss Alberta Cherry, Miss Georgia Stancer, Miss Ethel Flowers, Ethel Hunter, Miss Ada Gibson, Miss our cousin, oh my God, Jessie May, our cousin Jessie May, she still continued to nurture our gift. And how she did it was, Miss Jessie May, that's what we call her. She's our cousin, but we called her Aunt Jessie May because that's how close she was to our mama and how close she was to us. Now, she was a blind lady, but she could sing, and you know what else she could do? She could play that piano. So, as we got older, began to get dropped off at her house sometimes so we could learn the piano and, learn how to sing the way she was singing. Oh, she was wise. Blind people have they can sense things and they know things without even seeing it. But we would go to her house and she would get on the piano sometimes and sing Precious Lord. That's where we first learned how to sing Precious Lord. Oh yeah, that was another song my biological mom used to love to sing back during those days. And she would say, when you sing this, you need to get it out of your nose. No matter where I went, I was being told stop singing through my nose. To this day, I still sing through my nose, okay? And that's probably why, because it was sounding like that. How'd she say? So she would get on the piano, and she'd do the introduction. She'd say, come in. And I was like, I don't know when to come in. My sisters didn't know when to come in. So we were just still standing there. She said, you got to come in on time now. This is your introduction. So she's the one who taught us about introduction and coming in when we're not singing as the Sunshine Band. Now we're not around a bunch of kids singing. Now it's just the three of us along with Aunt Jessie Mae. Aunt Jessie Mae is teaching us how she do. And as she's playing, she's like, this is it. She gives the introduction and then she's, precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak. And then that little piano, I am worn through the storm, through the night. Lead me on to the light. Take my hand. Boom, 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 boom. Precious Lord. I was trying to bring the piano in there as I hear it in my head. And we learned that song. And we started singing it then. We even did a remake to it where we would start off really slow, real slow, like we used to see the older people do, and then we rearranged it some kind of way when we became the new group now. The new group consisted of, now we've aged some. Now we've gotten used to going to different places singing. We've been in and out of state singing. As we're getting older now. Wait a minute, I think I jumped ahead of my time. No, I did jump ahead of my time. Wait a minute, we didn't do the in and out of state yet. Okay, next we joined the young adult choir at Mount Zion Mount Zion Church here in Candor, North Carolina. We stayed on that choir for a long time. We was on there for a long time, from the time like being maybe, I don't know. It seems like we may have, I want to say right after the Sunshine Band dismembered, that's when we joined the young adult choir. And we was underneath Deacon Larry Horn, who was our president on that choir, who taught us, a lot about order in the church and order when singing. And it was a lot of members on there. The young adult choir always sung so pretty, and they would march in, and we had to learn how to march in. Well, we didn't have to learn. We just had to learn how to do it in their order, because we was already, everything we were seeing them do, we was already doing it at home, even though we would be by ourselves. Sometimes when our friends would come up, we all get in line, and we'd be like, we want to sing some church songs, and we'd be like, we're marching on to Zion, that beautiful city of God. We're marching. And y'all know back then, if you saw them older people singing that song, they were marching. And that's what we did. We followed what we saw them do. That's what we did. We followed everything we saw them doing at church. We came back home and did it too. That's why it's important that whatever you do at church, and these small kids are there watching, they're going to go home and do what they see you do. Because I remember at church, we had some ushers. Now, some were nice, but some would put you in your place. We even went home and imitated what the ushers were doing. We had, in the living room, you had access to 1, 2, 3 doors that you could go to in our living room at home. One would lead to a bedroom. Let's say bedroom 1, and another one would lead to bedroom 2. No, we had 3 doors. One would lead to the bathroom, bedroom 3. No, we had 4 doors. And then you had the front door. So we had 4 doors, and each one of us, we would put a tie on our brother's neck to try to make him look like he was one of the male ushers, and we assign him a door, and then we would be assigned a door, and we was marking what we saw them do. And if we saw somebody chewing gum, we would pretend like we saw somebody chewing gum and go take the napkin or toilet tissue. Mama got mad at us wasting so much toilet tissue. We take it and pretend like we was getting gum out of somebody's mouth, or we was getting on to somebody. So see, what we seen in the church was what we brought home. That's what we brought home. But I pray to this day that what my children and grandchildren are seeing in the church, I pray they're not bringing that stuff home, because some of that stuff is demonic, what people are doing these days. And jumping back on topic, but that's the truth, because kids do watch and they do come home and mimic what they see, including the nasty and hateful parts of church. We would mimic so many people, what they would do to us. And that was our way of dealing with what you call now church hurt. We was already hurt by how they were doing our biological mama. Now, our grandma who adopted us, she sung on the choir for years, probably like 60 years. She never had a problem. She sang her song, and she got a pretty little opera voice. She sang her song, and she loved hymns, because she's one of them babies from 1929. We learned our hymns from her. And one of the hymns that she taught us, jumping on into the good parts of this, one of the hymns that she taught us was Blessed Assurance. Let me see if I can hit it. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. And then she had this little voice that goes like this. Oh, what? Wait a minute. Hold up. I gotta get mama right. Hold up. My throat is a little bit, y'all hear it, but let me see if I can do mama. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine. You know, she had one of those angelic voices that was thick, full, and would just lift and open up. So we get our singing from her. That's who we got our singing from. She taught us how to sing the hymns. Pass me not, oh gentle Savior. That's one of the songs that has always stuck with us, even when we got older and we would have choir practice here at my house or at my sister's house. When we open up practice, that would be one of the hymns that we would sing, Pass me not, oh gentle Savior. And I really just, we grew in the church, but we grew away from the church, because at the same time that we are singing all these praises to God, and we are happy that we're singing, we also have people who's in behind us manipulating our spirit. we have people in behind us who are, saying little slick words. Now, I can't say there was never anything sexually like that in the church for us that I know of. Well, there was a couple places we go to and get disrespected. But, as it wasn't at our church. As we got older, we started learning that, because as you get older, your eyes start coming open. Now, at this time, we still going, we just singing on that young adult choir, and our biological mama gets out of prison. The first thing she wants to do, she starts teaching us about going to anniversary singing. Now, when we joined the young adult choir, of course, that was part of being on the choir, is that we serve and help other choirs, when they had choir anniversaries. We invite them to ours to help us build our funds so we could travel and sing the gospel. And they would invite us to theirs so that they could build their funds, travel, and sing the gospel. Now, we was a hot choir, young adult choir. When you talk about when we started getting in our teenage years and our voices started filling out more and we started learning how to arrange our vocals more, oh, those were good times. We sung so many different songs, and we was able to have sopranos. We worked with the woman Annette Bowen. Annette Bowen taught me a lot. She taught me how to be firm and to sing in my voice. Because I have my voice, and then I could do so many different ranges of voices. But Annette taught me how to be true to myself and still add what I needed to add as I was going. Annette taught me, don't let nobody come in and mess up your song just because they having a bad day. If you got to, you stop them. In the middle of practice, we would be, at this time, I'm going to say, 5, 6, maybe 12 or 13 of us on the young adult choir. And we're all on Wednesday nights. We always go to practice at 6:00 p.m. And when she get in there, we look forward to it too. When we see the cars in the parking lot, we look forward to it. Y'all, we finna have a good time. And we go in there, we practice. And when it would come to her song, it was always like we were dragging. Just dragging. Now, Annette was another one that people looked down upon because she had other things going on in her life. So people looked at her funny, and she knew it. She knew it, and she called it out. Now, she didn't play about herself or her singing. She was a great singer. A great singer. That didn't hold back her tongue. So one day we're singing her song, and she says, Jimmy. I said, why that woman keep calling me Jimmy? At first I was mad about it because she kept calling me Jimmy. And then I learned, sometimes that's how people, they grow up like that. That's how they talk. It's nothing personal. It's just, that's how they speak. I learned that. Okay. And she's like, Jimmy, sing that part right. Because I didn't know that Annette was really listening to our voices. See, we didn't know anything about that either. We thought we just get up there and sang, just to be filling in the vocals. But no. She was really listening to our range, what key we was in, how we was singing. She watched everything. Now, I don't know if Annette was a professional singer before she got on the choir or if she sung with others, but, excuse me. But she nailed it. She said, Jimmy, you can sing tenor. And I was like, tenor? I don't know what no tenor is. We didn't learn what altos and sopranos and things was until we got older. And she was like, I want you to put your voice way up here. And I was like, I can't do that. You asking for too much. She said, yes, you can. Open your mouth up. And so, and so I began to sing. And when I opened my mouth up, it came out just the way she said it would come out. And that was helping her song out. And then she would go to my other sisters and tell them how they supposed to sing. And once we learned that, it was no turning around. When we sung that song from then on, when she said, Lord, 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 we wasn't singing like this. Should be good to me. Because that's how it sounded. Excuse me. That's how it sounded when we was first singing it. Should be good to me. It was no spirit in it, none of that. But now once she got us set and she got us told, she said, Larry, y'all know y'all ain't singing that song right. Chronicles of the Choir. And she would get on the piano player. You playing too slow, speed up. And she would say, this how you do it. And she started tapping her fingers because she had long fingernails, painted too. And she started tapping her fingernails, telling how he's supposed to play it. Speeding him up, speeding us up, getting our vocals together. And the next time we came out singing that song, it ended up being one of the hottest songs we could sing on a Sunday. When it was time for us to sing on Sundays, we rocked the house. We rocked that for God. We sure did. It was now, Lord, 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 sure be good to me. I say, Lord, 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 sure been good to me. You know, I was no longer down in this low-key singing. I was way up there. Sure been good to me. Well, it wasn't like that. Oops, sorry, y'all. I kind of messed that one. Sure been good to me. I'm holding back. I'm restraining. I feel it. Probably because my throat's sore and y'all hear I keep a little nasally here. Let's see. Lord, 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 sure been good to me. I was a little better back then. I was around 13 years old when I was in the choir singing those high notes. And I remember one Sunday, the notes were so high. I enjoyed it, though. People couldn't believe that we were singing in that range. And frankly, we hadn't heard anybody singing those ranges that we were doing or those harmonies that we were bringing together. We hadn't heard that type of singing in church, I don't think, except for on the choir anniversaries when some of the quartet groups would come in, because that was the only time quartet groups came, was during anniversary time. When they would come in and sing, then we would hear those type of harmonies. And we always loved the quartet groups. We loved the choirs too. It wasn't too many groups of choirs that we did not like. And we traveled up and down the road singing for the Lord on the church choir. Now, we had some great success singing on the church choir. Some of the best times we met people who we wouldn't have met if we had not been singing on the choir. Some of those people we still friends with. Some of them, I don't know where they at. But you soon learn that this is why you got to be careful how you treat people on your way up. Because as you're on your way down, you're going to run into those same people. Some of the people who treated us mean and bad during that time, we grew up. We eventually grew up. And so did they. As we grew older, they got older. And what happens is now that we're teenagers, now we go into being adults. I get off the choir. So y'all, I'm getting around to this is how God's anointed messages got started. I get off the choir because I got pregnant. That's why I got off the choir. My sister was off the choir. My other sister was off the choir. We were all off the choir. And my reason was because I got pregnant out of wedlock. That's why I got off the choir. And we were told that if you get pregnant, you have to sit down and you have to come back in. You got to repent. And then we'll put you back up there singing. However, during that time, I didn't understand the spiritualness behind that. And when I was sat down off the choir, it wasn't easy for them to do. Now that I'm thinking about it, it wasn't easy for them to sit us down. It was a hard job because my dad had to break that news to us, Deacon Marshall. And that's the last thing he wanted to do, was to see us leave the church choir the way we did. He really tried. He spoke for us well and highly. But at the end of the day, he had to follow what God said. And Daddy knew our lifestyle. So he told us straight up, he said, look, y'all out here drinking. Y'all out here running around with these men. Y'all out here in the clubs. And it wasn't that Daddy didn't try. Him and Mama came up in the clubs and got us out of the club. That's how sincere in the faith he was. When he got to the club that night, and this was his final draw for us. He got to the club that night, and somebody was going to charge him to come into the club. But then he said, I just want my girls out of here. And they let him in free to come get us. He came in the club. We ran out the back door. Then when they would go outside, we'd run back in. He came, they got us, took us home, had to talk, pulled out the big Holy Bible, told us we were wrong, and that we needed to get ourselves together. And he said it. He said, y'all can't be singing on the choir and living like, at that time, he said whores. You can't be living like whoremongers. He said, you got to get yourself together. Then come back. And the pastor agreed with him. So did Mama and the rest of them. And that was the end of me singing on Mount Zion Young Adult Choir. I took it probably harder than the rest of my sisters did, and I wasn't so forgiving about it. Because at that time, I didn't even know forgiveness was for me. So when I left the church, I left mad. When I got sat down off the choir, I left mad. I mean, I was mad. How can you set us down? We singing every Sunday. We stopped going to choir practice. We stopped going off to sing. We were showing up late to places. I look at that now. Now that I'm saying that out loud, I probably need to apologize to who the pastor was back then, because I really threw that pastor's name in the mud. And it takes a lot to say that. But I, at that time, was in my flesh and it was in it bad. I already had a child and was going on number 2. And they were still saying, Jamie, we're here to help you get yourself together. You can come back to the church. You don't have to leave the church because you can't sing. But see, I didn't see it like that because I didn't have any spiritual guidance in that area. You know, we were singing, showing up for preaching and all that, but we, I didn't understand it. And so I got off the choir. I didn't go back. Ever. To this day, I didn't try to go back. Deacon Larry did talk to me a lot. Deacon Larry Horn, I will say, that man was real. Him and his wife Tima Horn, they were real. They didn't have nothing against me for leaving the choir or the church. Nothing against me. Every time he saw me, Jamie, please come back. Don't worry about nothing. Talk to God. Let's pray. Do you need anything? That's how that deacon was. And my daddy was the same way. My dad was like, when you come back to the church? Because as I started getting older, I started doing a little better, trying to. But then my mom, biological mom, Gloria, at the same time that all this is going on, that we've gotten out of the church. Okay, so I'm out of the church by 15, 16, and 17. And now that I'm getting a little older, I'm not even worried about the church. I'm mad at the church. I've decided that I'm not going back to sing. I'm not going back to that church anymore because they was wrong for setting me down because I got pregnant. Because I was out drinking and running to the clubs. They were wrong for setting me down. In my mind, that's the type of delusion that I really had. Because when you're in your flesh, you have a carnal mind. And my mind was carnal at that time. And I thought I was so right. I thought I was so right. Come as you are. Come as you are. That's what we hear. Come as you are. But you just can't minister to people. Through song or through preaching. Until you get purified. Until you repent. So I was confused on things. Okay. Fast forward, I stopped going to church. But my sister, Christina, I don't know how she did it. She found the strength. It didn't offend her as much as it did me. She found the strength and she got with Deacon Larry and went right on back to singing and churching like, she went right on back. And it was years later though. But she did go back. And my sister Cammie, she didn't go back to singing at the church. And Brother Joe never did sing except for on that one choir. Oh, he was on the Sunshine Band and the Midnight Shiners. And Chris, it was biological mama Gloria. She had this thing. Oh, by the way, y'all, before I go any further, let me tell y'all, Mama and Daddy, Deacon Marshall and Cammie, they supported our singing no matter where we had to go sing, no matter how far it was. Daddy and Mama was right there. If Mama couldn't make it, Daddy was there every time. He didn't never let us go out on the road by ourselves. Never. He was always there. He was there every step of the way. Now I'm up in my 20s and we're just sitting around the house drinking and having some fun, and biological mama Gloria decides, hey, let's get a group together. Y'all, we can go back to singing. And we not really thinking, you know how it is, you get to drinking, and for us, we would start drinking and then we start singing gospel music. So gospel was in our heart the whole time. It was just in our heart. Now, I'm just being true about things that happened along our journey of singing. And we decided we'd start back singing. We had a cousin that loved to sing with us, and we had one of the fellas from the young adult choir from Mount Zion who loved to sing with us, Brother Rodney Nixon. So we decided we put our drinking to the side for, so we could practice and so that we could go and sing. And we started getting these invitations. Whoa, it looked like things were finally looking up. Invitations started coming left to right. We had so many invitations to go sing. It was so good. We got to the place where we were looking in newspapers for places to go sing. And because, sometimes they be having anniversaries or concerts and they invite groups. And we would do that. We'd go get on those programs to sing. And that was the beginning of the Gospel Explosion, I want to say, was our name. The Gospel Explosion Community Choir, which consisted of me, Chris, Cammie, biological mom, Gloria, Brother Rodney Nicholson, and then Cousin L. Cousin L had a great voice, and one thing we all had in common was that we loved to sing gospel music. So we made it a community choir since she was from Moore County, we were from Montgomery County, and we had it open like if somebody else wanted to come in, because we were a community choir, they could. Now, we wasn't looked at as a community choir, though. We soon started realizing that people, just as easy it was as it was to get booked, it was also easy to get frustrated. Because we started noticing that some people, even though they knew us, they didn't really want us singing on their programs because we was not affiliated with no church. Yeah. We wasn't really affiliated with any church. I mean, everybody knew Brother Rodney with the Mount Zion. And at that time, my sister Chris, she was going to Mount Zion. But the rest of us, we did not have a church home. My cousin L had a church home, which may have been Holy Way at that time. I want to say Holy Way. But the rest of us, because we were calling ourselves a community choir, we didn't have a church home. So that caused conflict among some of the people at the churches. In a way, they was taking our names off of the list when we would go sing. They would move us all the way to the end, to the bottom. The last group. We could be number 1 or we like being number 4 or 5. So we could sit back and just hear everybody else singing. We didn't want to be first either. And it got where it was a conflict there. We had to wait sometimes 3 and 4 hours before we could sing. Despite us getting there early. See, this is how it worked back in the days. Back in the days, if you was going to a choir anniversary, which is not the same thing as a concert, you would sign your name on a tablet or a sign-in sheet, and whatever number you sign in at, that's what number you would be called, and you would go up to minister through song. Well, if we signed in at number 4, then what would happen, we'd be sitting there all night and we'd look around at each other, well, ain't that the 6th group that went up to sing and we ain't sung yet? And usually I say, well, just wait, y'all. Just wait. Be patient. Don't, I always had a word in the hat to keep everybody calm. Because some did want to get up and say something. And I would be like, no, don't do that. Don't cause no problem. And that's when we first noticed that we were going to be treated different. We knew that. That first time we got treated different was in Carthage, North Carolina. That was the first time we went off to sing as the Gospel Community Explosion. We wore black and white that day. We got down there to that church, and them people, They put our name down, but they really did not want us to sing. And that's why they put us last. By the time we got ready to sing, everybody was getting up leaving. But then when we started singing and they heard our voices, some of them turned around and sat back down, and some of them came back in the church. They came back in the church because they wanted to finish hearing us sing. So even though we were done wrong, there were still people who wanted to hear us sing. There were people who knew us. Our problem was we didn't have a church home, and because we didn't have a church home, we were looked down upon. And those who did have a church home were told, you need to stop singing with them, or else you're going to have to sit down. You're going to have to step down off in our choirs if you don't stop singing with them, because you're starting to make us look bad by singing with them. And I think I'm going to stop right there, and I'll come back on and do some more, but I'm going to stop right there, and we'll finish. We'll hit on part 2 of this maybe tomorrow. But it's really sad how we got done many of years. We've been singing the gospel for 38 years, almost. Well, it was near 40 really. It's really 40, but it was 38 when I just really was like, I'm not going to give it away, but we've been singing for a long time. And when the Gospel Explosion community group came out, I was happy. Because that gospel group kept me from doing drugs at that time. If I didn't have something to look forward to, there's no telling what my life would have been like now. It came during a time when I was in a really bad shape. And at first I was skeptical of joining them, but they kept saying, oh, come on. Me and Rodney, my sister Christina, she was very persistent. She said, me and Rodney already been going out singing. That's how she was like that. She said, come on, y'all, let's do it. And she talked me into it. And we got to singing, and we sung. So y'all stay tuned for part 2. Thanks for listening to Lovely J Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this out, because this was our journey as God's anointed messengers, and I will try to get my sisters to call in, and so that they can give their input too on what it was like for them traveling up and down the road as God's anointed messengers. It's not just for me, but it's for all of us. We need this. We need this moment to get out everything that we've been holding in so we can be free. We can be singing free. We can be free-hearted, because it was a lot that we went through under the watch of bishops, pastors, apostles, preachers, choir directors, ushers. But we'll get into it.